Okay, good morning everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to our remote meeting of the Charter Trustees for the City of Durham. I am Councillor Katie Corrigan, Mayor of Durham and Chair of today's meeting. Please note this meeting is being streamed live to the Council's website and will be available for a viewing of a minimum of 6 months. I would like to give a warm welcome to trustees, officers and any members of the public or media who are watching this live stream meeting. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us all to follow in order for the meeting to run efficiently as possible. For those participating in the meeting, if you could please only speak when invited to speak by myself as chair. Keep your microphone on mute at all times unless invited to speak. Charter trustees, if you wish to speak, please type RTS in the chat function, and this will indicate to me that you wish to speak. Please bear in mind that all participants can see the messages in the chat function. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position, unless you've already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If I lose connection, please note that Councillor David Bell will take over in my absence until my connection is restored. That moves us on to item 1. Colleagues, it is with great sadness that I have to formally report the deaths of Alderman John Lightly, Mayor of Durham City between 2005 and 2006, and his wife, Margaret Lightly. Can I ask the trustees just to reflect for a moment of silence? Thank you. Moves us on to item 2, apologies for absence.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Hovels, C. Marshall, E. Maven, Tinsley and Turnbull.
Thank you. That moves us on to item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of January 2020. These minutes would ordinarily have been approved at the meeting on the 25th of March, which had been postponed due to the COVID outbreak. Does any Charter trustee have any comments on the minutes? If so, can you please type RTS in the chat function? I'll wait a few seconds, see if anyone's got any questions or comments. There are no comments. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes, please?
Move them, Chair.
Thank you.
Second them, Chair.
Thank you. That moves us on to item 4, declarations of interest. Does any trustee have any declaration of interest? Nope. Thank you. That moves us on to item 5, yearly approval of risk assessment of governance arrangements. Report from the clerk to the trustees. Brian, can I ask you to present your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning to all the Charter trustees. It's lovely to see you all. So yes, I'm Brian Smith, clerk to the Charter trustees, and this is a short report that would ordinarily have gone to the meeting that was scheduled last March. As Charter trustees will recall, there are governance arrangements which need reviewing on a yearly basis, and this is one which involves the risk control matrix for governance arrangements and financial arrangements. This is normally reviewed towards the end of each financial year and approved by the Charter Trustees and approved as part of the annual return. So this report has been brought forward from March. You'll see that there is a spreadsheet which identifies all of the risks and the existing control measures, the impact of the risk and the likelihood of the risk and how it's controlled. There's been very little change to this over the last 2 or 3 years, and normally this has been accepted without any further question, but needs to be reviewed and formally signed off as minuted by the Charter Trustees each year. As it happens, we weren't able to do it because of the first lockdown due to the COVID crisis last March. So it's brought forward, and although it does say that it's requested for approval for the year end of March 2020, it occurs to me that we're nearly towards the end of this year, and unless we were to call another Charter Trustees meeting before the end of March to approve it March 21 as well, I think there is probably an opportunity, and it would be prudent for the Charter Trustees to consider approving it to cover both years, for March 2020 and March 2021. I don't anticipate there would be any significant changes, or any changes at all, in fact, to the way that we govern the risks. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those. But what I can say is that I've normally approved these in discussion with our risk and governance manager in County Hall. And as I say, we review them once a year. There's been no change. There would have been no change last March. I don't think there's been anything in the way that anything has happened from March to now to cause us to update it any further. So it is there really for a view and approval, I would suggest, for the year ends 2020 and 2021. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any members have any comments or questions? Councillor Hopgood.
Yeah, Chair, move the recommendation and note to add in 2021 as well. So move approval for 2020 and 2021.
Okay, thank you.
That, Chair.
Thank you. So therefore, do the trustees approve the report?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. That moves us on to item 6, 2021 to 22 budget report of the Treasurer. Jeff, can I ask you to present the report, please?
No problem. Thanks very much. And again, good to see everybody in these very strange times. Yeah, as trustees will be aware, we bring this report to yourselves every year in terms of budget setting. But we're trying to reflect in this report as well what the position is in the current year. Again, being unable to bring a report to date to the trustees. So trustees will remember that for this year we set a council tax requirement of 49,539. That gave us a budget of just over 70,000 and a council tax of £1.90. And that was in line with the agreements from trustees now for a number of years to maintain council tax at £1.90. And that was the expectation also for 21-22. And trustees have reflected that once a new Board of Trustees was elected at the election coming up, that there would then be a reflection on precept levels for the future at that time. So as far as budget assumptions that we're building in for next year, we built in an inflation assumption at the moment of 1.5%, which probably is a little bit prudent. Inflation's probably about 0.7 at the moment, but who knows what might happen across the next 12 months. For pay award, we put in 2%. You may have seen the announcement last week, or this week, sorry, by the Chancellor in terms of pay restraint in the public sector, identifying that there was going to be no pay award for anybody over 24,000, but below 24,000 there will be a pay rise. However, that doesn't apply to local government. Local government has independent setting pay bodies. So at this stage, I would still recommend that we prudently leave the 2% in and reflect on that as we go through the year. And we have a slight increase in our local council tax support grant, but there is a slight reduction in the council tax base. That's unsurprising when we reflect on, unfortunately, a number of people who've lost their job in recent weeks and months, and that is resulting in a lower level of council tax base for the Charter Trust and for the whole county. So as far as the position in the current year, just to reflect, obviously the expenditure that we're forecasting for the trustees this year just naturally isn't as high as we were expecting. So we are probably about £25,000 under what we thought we would spend. And we were going to draw quite a significant sum from reserves this year. Obviously now we're going to end up actually putting money back into reserves of about 14,000. But that is just a natural position from what's happened across the last few months. And I say the tax base is down about 110. It's not massive, but it does result in a reduction in income for the trustees. So when we apply the budget assumptions that I've mentioned for the budget for next year and leave that Band D council tax at £1.90 in line with your previous expectations, if everything goes okay this year, and let's hope for everybody and fingers crossed that that is the case, then we will be drawing a figure from reserves of around 15,162. And as the report reflects, just saying that we will then have to probably do a report for the trustees again next year in terms of what your strategy is going to be for council tax setting for the future beyond 21-22. As far as the overall reserves position is concerned, naturally it's very healthy at the moment because of the position in the current year. So after we've utilised 15,162 to set next year's budget, we still feel there will be around £58,000 of reserves left for the Charter Trustees, which again will give the trustees flexibility in their views in the future for setting a level of precept. So what we're seeking, Chair, is for recommendation being to note the outturn in the current year and the forecast of underspend. We're seeking agreement to set a council tax requirement of 49,330 for next year, which is a £1.90 precept. And we do have until the 22nd of January 2021 to agree the precept, but obviously I'm hoping we can agree that today. And then finally, just to note that we will need to reflect next year in terms of what the long-term strategy for the trustees are going to be in terms of future levels of precept. That's it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Do any members have any questions or comments? Councillor Hopgood?
Yeah, Chair, again, I'd move to recommend to approve the recommendations, and that we defer any conversations around precepts and what we do till after the elections next year, so that the new set of chartered trustees who are going to be in place for the 4 years take responsibility for that.
Okay, thank you. Any more members have any questions, or do we have a seconder for the report?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Do the trustees approve the report and the recommendations?
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you. That moves us on to item 7, annual return of the year ended 31st of March 2020. Can we have an update from the Treasurer? Jeff, can you present your report, please?
Thank you very much. Again, in line with Brian's report earlier to yourselves, Charter Trustees will be aware after we've normally closed the accounts for the Charter Trustees, we bring the annual return in, and Chair and the Secretary and myself, the clerk there, sign that document. Obviously been unable to do it this year, but I need to hold my hands up and say we're actually not in place to do it yet because the final audit is yet to be completed. And that is just linked to the whole kind of delay process that we've got within all organisations right now linked to COVID. So, I mean, even the County Council's accounts this year were a couple of months late from what they were supposed to be. And we only have one last little thing to finalise with the external auditor at the moment. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks the audit will be finalised, which will enable us to get the annual return completed. And just to reflect for yourselves, the annual return includes the annual governance statement, as Brian was referring to earlier, the accounting statements, as in the final accounts, and the external audit and internal audit assurance of the financial position of the trustees. So unfortunately, I haven't been in a position to bring that today to try and get that signed, notwithstanding we'd need actually signing. So what I'm seeking from the trustees today is an agreement that we could delegate the responsibility for signing off the annual return over the next few weeks to Brian, myself, and the chair, and that on that basis then give satisfaction to yourselves that everything is in order. Otherwise, again, we would need to organise another meeting to then have that signed off. So I am hopeful, Chair, that in the next couple of weeks we'll have that done and finalised. So I guess the two choices are to give the delegated power to yourself and ourselves to sign that, or to have to come back for another board meeting to do so.
Thank you. Do any trustees have any questions or comments on Jeff's update?
Move the report, Chair.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Do the trustees agree to the delegated powers?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I've not been notified of any of the business. Before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for taking part, and to those members of the public and the media that have been watching the meeting. Can we wait until the broadcast has ended, if that's okay? Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Lovely to see you all.